What's going on, YouTube? I'm gonna be developing the Aeroboticar Uprising. Just gotta make sure I'm live. Is sound on? I think it is, but let me Aeroboticar Uprising. Just gotta make sure I'm live. Is sound on? Yeah. Just double checking the settings, making sure it's okay for your audio and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna be using Gemini to code because I don't know how to code. Like from scratch. I understand how it works, but when I'm trying to create stuff, it's just easier to have it generate code and everything like that. I think I might have to restart my Gemini app because I think it crashed. So I will be talking to you guys while I process my thoughts. And see, so this is kind of, I just want to show you guys a glimpse of how I've been going about creating a video, like the video game that you see, and I'll play it in a second so you guys can see what's going on. But this is kind of, you know, how I've been going about it, just getting the code from Gemini, plugging it in, seeing if it works, and then if it doesn't, just complaining to it and then showing it the console logs, and then it basically just debugs for me. So it's kind of like having a personal coding assistant or developer programmer who can generate all the language, all the syntax for me the way that I want it to, so I can kind of focus on the higher level, bigger picture stuff. And I hope that I can get some, you know, like feedback, some interaction with you guys. I doubt anyone's gonna join because this is my first stream, so I might just be talking to myself the whole time, which is fine. Like, might watch this in the future, so still gonna talk because I like watching these back for myself. And yeah, so let's get started. But if you guys have any feedback and if you happen to join, just let me know what you guys want to see in the hold on. Okay, just making sure that it works. And if you see me looking down at my phone, it's because I'm checking the stream. Like right now, I'm just making sure that it is working, but I can't even click on it. Alright, there you go. Moderation. Okay, cool. Alright, so I'm just literally just on my phone checking the stream right now. So one viewer, and that one viewer is me. So it's working, it's functioning. So let's kind of get into it. So far we have this level. I'm just gonna be honest with you how I designed it. I know it's not the best, but you know, it's just the reality of what it is. Here's like buildings on a long stretch of road. You can see this boundary right here, this boundary wall. That is the end of the level. There's also a sky boundary so that you can't fly outside of the confines of the boundary wall. And the sky as well as the buildings. I believe the buildings have. Yeah, the buildings have boundaries on them as well. See? I don't know if you can see that, but they do have boundaries. Kind of like that, but just imagine it right here. I don't know why it's not showing up right now. Don't want to really get into it. It's just that's how it is. And just kind of going into a little bit of the mechanics of why the game plays the way it plays. So just know that there are like there's a set like kind of grid or tube. How would you say that? It's like a cylindrical sort of play area, and then you can't fly too high and you can't fly into the buildings on the left or right side, and obviously you can't fall through the ground. So right now I'm working on, what am I working on? I believe I'm working on I'm working on the spacebar jump function. So here's the player script. It's called first person movement. So switch and first person movement are sort of the kind of bread and butter of the whole game in terms of the routines that are running on the engine. So here are the attributes that you can change around, like jump cooldown. This is essential for making sure I'm not double jumping. Jump power, look speed, power, and then switching logic so that you can get in and out of the Aeroboticar from being in the first person point of view. This entity right here, which has a camera on it. See right here? That's how it looks when you start the game. And you move this guy around, and it interacts with the world. So here's the Aeroboticar entity, which also has cameras on the inside and outside. Well, actually, there was one camera that was inside, but I didn't like it in there anymore. I want the game to feel like you're outside. So I'm gonna fix that later. Right now, I just can't really be bothered with like sort of messing with like touching it up. Like I'll polish it at the end and make sure that there's only one camera for that, because right now it like starts off like this, and then you'll see when I get in there's a press P to switch perspective, which changes the camera from the inside to the outside. Well, from this to this. It used to be inside, like first person point of view, like you can see the inside of the cockpit. And that's how it started, inside. But I wanted that outside, so I literally just took these arrows and moved it. It was like this before, but now it's like this. And then it was, there was a second one outside like this, but I don't want this one anymore. So, but if I delete it, I think it's gonna mess up it's gonna like cause bugs and everything. So I'm just leaving it the way it is right now. We also have the actual Lorenz, all the details that I did in CAD. I tried to make this as realistic as possible, with all the physics, taking into real world physics into account. And manufacturing, like you could build this in real life. I have a 3D printed model in the back that I 3D printed. So this is like a real thing that you can make in the real world. And I'm making a video game about it. It has the thruster cages. I don't like that name anymore, but I don't, all the codes is dependent on this word, I think. So, but these are like ducted fans or thrusters, whatever. I don't know why I said cages. I didn't know what to call them back then. The seat is in there, the airfoils, the front and back. I do kind of want to change the color of it to carbon fiber, but I paid like these Pakistani guys on Fiverr, and I was like, can you paint this in Blender and give me the file so that I can just plug it in, because I don't know how to use Blender or paint in Blender. So I just hired someone. I think it was like $100 or Like, I think I tipped them, so it ended up being like 150, and they painted it for me. That's what this texture is here, this material. Is anyone watching yet? Let's see if anyone's watching. Oh, nice. Oh, wait, that's me. I was like, oh, I have one viewer. It's literally just me. Okay. Anyways, back to the game editor. Colliders in the front and back. So these are just like collision entities. I think these are supposed to be rigid bodies, or they act as rigid bodies. Huh. I could have swore these had rigid body components on them. Guess not. I'm not going to mess with it because it works. So, yeah. UI manager. What is this? I think this is supposed to be out here. Under the root directory. A directory is kind of just like a folder. If you imagine, like, if you open your folder, your computer folders, these are all directories. They're just folders. So yeah, I think I went over everything that I have going on right now. I was having trouble. It was dark, so I added a bunch of light, and that seemed to fix it. So I'm just gonna keep it the way it is right now. And I'll show you guys the gameplay, what I have so far, and I'll show you just minor details that I've been kind of hacking away. I'll launch it right now. Oh, hold on. You guys didn't see the loading screen. I forgot to say there's a loading screen in the code editor. Here's the loading.js file. So this is just the default code that comes with on PlayCanvas, and then I just added an image of like the logo, and then I changed the background image and all that stuff. So we're working on first person movement. This is the code for that. It's like right here. 150 lines of code. And just going back to the editor, I'm gonna start the game now, and then pay attention to the loading screen right here. See, it's white and then it turns black when it fully loads. So this is kind of the level that you start out on as a first person. I'm moving my mouse around right now to see. I know it seems so simple, like, of course, Peter, that's the simple game mechanics. But actually, like, when you're trying to make something like a camera move around in a game, there's actually like code behind it that makes it run. And like someone figured it out how to do that a long time ago, and now everybody kind of just copies it in Java. I mean, I'm using Java. This is a web-based game, by the way, so it uses JavaScript. The reason why I did it that way is because I want to be able to go to my website, which is lorenzmotors.com, press on the game right here, which there is one right now that you can play, but I'm working on the new one. But I want it to be this style so that people can just load up their desktop and play the game, so they don't have to download any engines or install anything. They can kind of just go on the web browser and load up the game. So this is what it is on my website. You can go check that out. A lot of the same mechanics that I have here are taken from that, with slight improvements that I had Gemini kind of polish. So anyway, let's get in it. WASD keys to move. You can see down here, it kind of gives you instructions. If you've never played a game before, that's kind of, that's kind of why I did it. As you can see, the press X to enter Aeroboticar message disappears when you're far away from the Aeroboticar. So you get closer, press X. This is the press P to change view thing I was talking about. Changes the camera from that to that. I think it's kind of cute. Cool. To have like a different perspective. Whatever. I might keep it. Anyways, you can fly it by using the IJKL keys, which are over here. WASD and IJKL. I will be working on that next, to sort of do it, make controls so that you're using your mouse to fly around, as well as WASD, so that you don't have to take your hand off the mouse and shoot and like keep switching between your mouse and your keyboard. I have to figure that out though, because WASD only does this, but how do I elevate, So I want it to be able to shoot with left click. So when I press the left click button, I want the left click to be able to shoot like a laser or like a gun or something like that. And maybe right click. I can't really think of anything that I would want right click to do. So I might program it to do right click for elevation and everything like that. See, so it elevates with I and lowers with K right now. And it, what is this called? Rolls left and right with J and L. But I'm not using J and L at all right now, and I feel like that's enough to fly it. So I might disable the roll feature left and right and just keep it WASD and then right click to elevate. But then how do I descend? That's the only thing. So yeah, so maybe I can look up like a tutorial or an example of someone, just copy them and do what they did, whatever works on PC. Do you guys have any suggestions? No one's watching. Okay. All right. I guess that's fine. So yeah, these are kind of the mechanics right now. You fly through the level. There's going to be enemies that you shoot. You can also get out by pressing X. Okay, and then you'll have a gun, and you can right click to aim and left click to shoot. Spacebar jump, right? It works. Spacebar jump works. However, when I get in the Aeroboticar, elevate, press X and jump, as you can see, I'm jumping in the air while I'm falling. See that? See how I was jumping while I was falling? So that's kind of what I'm working on right now with Gemini. And you will see me struggle quite a bit. And but yeah, if I stop talking, it's because I'm thinking. And I usually think privately, like not out loud. But I'm gonna try to demonstrate or act out my thoughts so that you guys can hear what's going on. And I'll try to, tell you exactly what I'm doing so that we're on the same page. So I just clicked that, opened it. This is what I said before. I said, okay, that's perfect. However, now I'm flying the Aeroboticar and I'm high in the air and I jump out, and while I'm floating to the ground, I'm able to jump in midair. I gave him the code and I was like, here's all the code. Please include the patch and entire code back. That's kind of where I left off. It said, you're absolutely right. Good catch. The cooldown prevents spamming right after a jump, but it doesn't prevent jumping if you fall off a ledge or exit the car midair and cooldown expires while you're still falling. We need to make sure can jump is only ever true if the ground check raycast is currently hitting the ground and the cooldown has finished. Complete first person movement.js. JS stands for JavaScript with air jump fix. Here's the entire script again. I've adjusted the ground check logic slightly to strictly enforce the on-ground requirement. Only the necessary lines are changed. So great, I usually just skim this sometimes. Sometimes I don't even bother. I just trust it. It's gotten stuff working before, like the Aeroboticar thruster cages, like they on the previous version on my website, they were actually like glitching. They would go like this and then glitch like that. But Gemini came up with code that makes it smoother and it doesn't glitch anymore. So I trust Gemini with like all this stuff. I kind of just have to be the operator between physics engine, game world editing, and coding liaison kind of sort of person. So I'm pretty sure from when I was coding this morning, I pasted this code, this entire code here. But let's just do it again just so we're on the same page. Yeah, so 150, that didn't change anything. So this is the current code that's in the engine, in the editor. And I have to figure out what to say or what to prompt Gemini so that it can debug it. So let's just read the summary of changes. Check ground helper function. Move the raycast logic into its own check ground function. Stricter can jump logic inside the check ground function. This .can jump is now only set to true if both on ground is true and this .jump timer is less than or equal to 0. If on ground is false, this .can jump is always set to false. I have no idea what that means, but like nothing is coming to mind. I think I might be like dyslexic or something. I never like can grasp what something's saying, especially when you're like talking to a computer, because when I imagine like language, human language, I imagine things because I'm a human. But when I'm trying to understand what a computer is doing, when you like go deep down into like the fundamentals of the physics, it's literally just binary zeros and ones doing things on a CPU. So what it's saying, it's trying to translate that into human language, but what's actually happening under the hood is like zeros and ones and false and trues and like things flipping around. So it's like I can't I like it's I don't have like the physical grasp of what's happening. It's abstract. It's very abstract, and I have no idea what this means. 3, check ground call and update. The update function now calls this check ground every frame to update the can jump status based on the latest raycast result and timer state. Check ground call in enable. The enable function now also calls this check ground function to set the initial can jump state correctly when the player script is re-enabled. Example after exiting the car. Added jump failure logs. Added logs in the spacebar check to explain why a jump failed, cooldown active or not grounded. This version should robustly prevent error jumps. Can jump will only be true if the raycast is currently hitting the ground and the cooldown timer has expired. The only thing I understood out of that whole thing is that there is a console log, added logs here, see? Added logs in the spacebar check to explain why a jump failed. And it's failing right now, so I'm going to launch it and press F12 to bring up the console. Click on the lock in the mouse. Okay, so it says jumped, starting cooldown, ground, check, hit ground, underneath, timer less than 0, setting jump true. Let's try flying, because this is fine. Okay, I'm just thinking right now. Hold on. I'm like spamming and I'm like also like listening to what it's saying. I'm wondering if I fly in the air and exit. So what is it saying right now while I'm in the air? Spacebar press but not on ground. Can jump equals false. Check hit ground true true. Okay. Hold on. Can jump equals false. this is a difficult thing to debug because while you're in the air, it's like saying stuff. While I'm in the air, it's saying things. So let's spam it like, so it's clearly jumping right now, right, while I'm falling. And it's saying can jump is true. It said false at first. But then while I was in the air, it was saying ground. And then it said can jump equals true. And it was jumping. So I have to explain that to ChatGPT. So I just screenshot this, save it, downloads. Okay, upload file. Okay, that's just how I had my computer organized, but usually something like this takes me all day. I maybe get like 2 bugs out of the way and like one thing, like one a day, but I did one thing today already, so I'm just doing the second thing, and I wanted to live stream, so if I can figure this out, that's pretty much going to be the end of the stream. Not very exciting if you want to stick around for that, but I do want to figure this out because I don't want people like jumping in the air and double jumping. It should just fall to the ground without being able to jump. So I tested the game, and while I was in the air flying the Aeroboticar, I pressed X to exit, and while I was falling, I spammed the space bar. As you can see, the first, actually, hold on. I need to redo the screenshot because remember how it said false, can jump false right here? Yeah. So let's see how it says exit car. Yeah, that's the one I need. Yeah, that's the one I need. X this out. Upload. I tested the game while I was in the air flying the Aeroboticar. I pressed X to exit, and while I was falling, I spammed the space bar. As you can see, the first can jump is false, but as I continued spamming the space bar, can jump equaled true, and I was jumping in the air while not landed on the ground. And that's literally all I know, and that's all I'm gonna send to Gemini. And usually it has me add like a whole bunch of console logs like this, like stuff that it can like kind of see what's executing and stuff. It's kind of reasoning, which I think is amazing. But yeah, like knowing all this code and stuff like that takes years of developing, and I got lucky that I'm right on time. Like, you know, I don't have to know all that. But here it's saying something. You're absolutely right. The log clearly shows the problem. Ground check hit ground, timers less than equal to 0, setting can jump true. This log is appearing while you are falling. This means the ground check raycast is incorrectly hitting something and reporting that you are on the ground, which then allows the jump. The most likely reason for this is that the raycast is hitting the player's own collider right as it starts. We need to tell the check to ignore the player itself. Since raycast first doesn't have a direct ignore option, we'll check the result after the raycast. If the entity hit is the player itself, we'll treat it as if nothing was hit. Complete first person movement. Here's the entire script again with the fix implemented in the check ground function. Replace the whole script content. Okay, sweet. Key changes inside check ground function. It now checks if result and result.entity is not equal to this .entity. This means if the raycast hit something, result exists, and the thing it hit, result.entity is not the player entity itself, this .entity. Only if both conditions are true does it consider the player on ground. This should prevent the raycast from hitting the player's own collider and correctly reporting hit none when falling, thus preventing the mid-air jumps. So that assumes that I'm just pasting it here, saving, and I'm gonna run it to see if it works. Gotta parse it first. So that's assuming that, you know, that the raycast is getting confused by this guy, this green thing. I think that's what Gemini is saying, is that it's confusing this entity, this rigid body, this collision, like it's picking that up and then assuming that it's on the ground. I think that's what it's saying. So just gotta parse the first person movement, launch it, and we'll see if it works. I doubt it. I doubt that was the fix. But I mean, I see. Yeah, that wasn't it. All right, so I wonder if it added any console.logs. So let me just read through this real quick. Let me just skim this to see if there's any modified logic ignores self collision. Stored the entity that was hit. If result entity, this entity check if someone was hit and it's not the player itself. Hit entity equals result.entity. Store the hit entity. So this is the new this is the new code. Previously, so right now I'm just kind of trying to understand what is happening, but there is a console.log here. Ground check hit, entity name, timers less than 0. Okay. Okay, so now it's saying entity ground is being hit. So I don't know why it thinks check hit ground. I don't think that's right, Gemini. Ground check helper function. I think this is what he added, or she, or they, or it. Ground check hit. I think we can just press Control Z. I don't know where we were, dude. Let's just revert to this one. I was pressing Control Z, undo, and do. Oh, there's 4 of you now. Oh, so cool. I thought I was just by myself, talking to myself. But yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I was just pressing undo because there's multiple versions of this code that I'm trying to debug with Gemini right now. Welcome to the stream. If you're new here, I appreciate you coming. Trying to stream and code at the same time. So it's like switching, like I gotta talk and I gotta work at the same time. But what I was thinking is that I have to prompt Gemini to say I don't think that's true that the raycast is mistakenly hitting the player entity because the console log says that, what does the console say? The check hit, the ground check hit is ground, not player. So I'm not sure if this is the right direction because I also plugged in your latest code and I'm still facing the same bug when I launch the game. Let's see what it says. So yeah, let's just wait to resolving the discrepancy. You can show it's thinking and stuff like that. You're absolutely right. My apologies. If the log explicitly says hit ground, then the raycast is hitting the ground entity, not the player. The check I added, result.entity, was unnecessary. You know what I think it is? I think it might be the check ground, this right here, the attribute, check ground distance. If I change that to 5 and parse it and launch, I'm wondering if that will fix it. Because 8 is kind of like, no, that just breaks it completely. Where does it parse it? Where does it work at? Okay, so it works at 6. Let's see if I'm gonna fly up, exit, and spam. Oh, you saw how it wasn't working before? Okay, so I'm up in the air, I press X, I'm spamming space, and it doesn't jump in the air until I'm like right here on the ground. So 5 wasn't working, we know that. For some reason, I don't know why. 6 kind of decreased it. So I have a hunch that it has something to do with this check ground distance thing. Let's see what it says. The raycast is hitting the ground entity, not the player. The check I added, result.entity is not this entity, was unnecessary. The fact that it's hitting the ground even when you're high in the air means, what does the console say when I do that on this game? I'm trying to check to see spacebar press but not on ground. Yeah. Does anyone have any idea? The fact that it's hitting the ground even when you're high in the air means the raycast is simply too long. It starts at your player's position and travels downward far enough. Ground check distance plus 0.1. that it always finds the ground below regardless of your actual height. The fix, adjust ground check distance, which is what I was doing. This needs to be done in the editor, not primarily in the code. The code is likely fine now, but the distance value is wrong for your setup. Select your player entity, find first person movement script, locate ground check. You mentioned setting it to 1.0, reduce this value significantly. Think about the distance from your player entity's origin point, the y equals 0 point of the entity itself, to just below its feet. If your player entity's origin is at its feet, the distance should be very small, like 0.1 or 0.2. If your player's entity origin is in the center of its body, about 1 unit above its feet, the distance should be slightly more than that distance. Okay. So how tall is this guy? This guy is... I kind of want to make him smaller. Like that or something. Because right now he's about... I mean 0.2, I guess. Make him a perfect square. And then I would just have to move... So to... I think 0.4 would be on the ground. Because it's half the height of his body plus the distance from the origin to... Yeah, so it's 0.4. Let's see if I can tweak the ground check distance to smaller now. Launch it. Press F12 to see what's going on in the console. Spacebar press, but not on the ground. Okay, so let's undo what I just did because I just broke everything. That's not... I don't think we can go that way. Let me just make sure that I fixed it because I think I just broke it. All right. The thing is, it's saying 0.1 to 0.2, but it doesn't work under 5. So I don't think we're on the same page about something. Cleaned up code, removing self-check. Here's the complete first person. Removing the unnecessary code. Check from the check ground function. The main fix will be adjusted attribute in the editor. Replace your script with the code above. Critically go to the player entity and reduce it. Test again. The jump should only work when the raycast, now shorter, actually hits the ground just below you. Alright. So let's paste that code into here. Parse it. Okay. I do want to... I think we're on the right track because when I changed the ground check distance from 8 to 6, the mid-air jumping stopped for the first few first few... What is a unit in first few units of height? First few units of height. The mid-air jumping stopped for the first few units of height and only resumed being able to jump when I got lower. However, I tried decreasing the ground check distance below 6 to below 6, like to 5, and I wasn't able to jump at all. So it's between 5 and 6. I'm not sure. I really don't know what's happening, but I have a suspicion that it has something to do with whatever this guy's talking, whatever Gemini says. So that's great debugging. You found the sensitivity range. It confirms the raycast is working, but the distance needed 5 to 6 units strong suggests your player entity's origin, its pivot point, is quite high above its feet, like near the center of its body. Here's what's happening. When you're falling, the raycast starts from that high origin point. If ground check distance is 6, the raycast is long enough to hit the ground even when you're still about 5 units in the air. Incorrectly setting can jump equals true. If ground check distance is 5, the ray is too short to even hit the ground when you are standing, so can jump is always false. Finding the right distance. You need a ground check distance that is slightly longer than the actual distance from your player entity's origin to the ground when it's standing still. How to find it? Position player so its feet are perfectly resting on your ground entity. Check Y position. Select the player entity. Note its Y position in the inspector. Let's say 0.8. Y position in the inspector. Actually, you're right. It is 0.8. Select the ground entity. Note its Y position. Okay. Yep, it's 0. Calculate the standing distance. The distance from the player's origin to the ground is player Y minus ground Y. Example, 0.8 to 0 minus 0 is 0.8. Set attribute. Go back to the player entity's first person movement script attributes. Set the ground check distance to be just a tiny bit more than the calculated distance. Example, if the distance was 0.8, try setting the attribute to 0.9 or 1. It doesn't work at 1. Parse it, launch. I won't be able to jump at all now. Yeah, I won't be able to jump at all. I think it might be like 5.5 maybe. Let's start there. Let's see if 5.5 works. Okay, 5.5 works. Let's try 5.4. Okay, 5.4 works. Let's try 5.3. So 5.3 doesn't work. So 5.4 worked. Parse that. Launch it. I'm wondering if I fly it in the air and press X. Oh, you know what it is actually? Oh no. I was thinking maybe the Aeroboticar was underneath me or something, and it was detecting it as the ground. Let's finish reading what it said. The goal, the raycast should be just long enough to detect the ground when you're standing on it or very close after landing, but short enough that it misses completely when you're falling from any significant height. Keep the code you have now, the raycast version, and just fine-tune that ground check distance attribute in the editor using this method. You should find a value that prevents air jumping while still allowing jumps from the ground. I guess and checked values between 5 and 6, and it turns out that 5.3 doesn't jump at all and 5.4 does jump. Does this tell you anything? Oh man, I wonder if I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like if someone's playing the game and they're flying and they exit and they press the space bar, it's like a small bug. You found the sensitivity range. It confirms the raycast is working, but the distance needed strongly. Wait, didn't I read this already? Wait. Oh, I didn't press enter. Bro, no. My prompt went away. I checked all values between 5 and 6 on ground check distance, but and found that 5.3 doesn't work and 5.4 does work when I press space bar. Does this tell you anything? I think it's because the image was enabled over here. I don't know why it does that. Whenever it like answers this, if you watch right here, see there's like a describe your image prompt now, and this pops up, and I always have to X out of it. Yes, that extremely narrow range tells us something important. Your player entity's origin is located about 5.3 units above its feet when it's standing on the ground. The raycast starts at that origin. When ground check distance is 5.3, the total ray length is 5.4, is just barely long enough to hit the ground. When ground check distance is 5.2, the total length is too short. This explains why it feels unreliable and why air jumping was happening with longer distances. The origin being high up makes the ground check very sensitive. Adjust the raycast start point. Instead of making the raycast super long, let's start it closer to the player's feet. This makes the ground check distance attribute more intuitive. It will represent how far below the feet to check. Replace only the check ground function in your first person movement with this version. Offset ground check start.y. Added ground check start.y. What does that mean again? I think that means this makes the ray start units 5 below the player's entity origin, which should be much closer to its feet. You might need to fine-tune this 5.0 value slightly based on your specific model. Shorter distance. Now that the ray start is lower, the ground check distance attribute can be set back to a much smaller, more sensible value. Replace the direct ground function. Save the script. Set the ground check distance attribute back to a small value. Launch and test. Jumping should now work reliably, and air jumping should be impossible because the rate will quickly miss the ground as you fall. Alright. So, first person movement, check ground. I believe it's this guy. Only the check ground function. This guy right here. Let's parse it and launch it, and let's see if it works. Okay. I think he said change it to 0.5 or 0.3. I might have to revert back to what was working, because now spacebar won't even work at all. No, I don't like that. I don't like that. Go back. Let's save that. And 5.4 was working. I don't like when they do that. No, that didn't work. But I think I'm just gonna leave it, honestly. It's just a little like you can jump in the air, you know? It's like a bug where you can jump in the air. Yeah. I'm not sure, like I'm not sure like how to visualize what the code is doing right now. Something about a raycast. Like ground check that there's a what's a raycast? Raycast JavaScript code visualizer. Uh-oh. I think I'm gonna just leave it like that, because I don't want to lose my ability to jump while like debugging the ground check. I'm really not sure. It's kind of like it's kind of annoying, but I have no clue what it could be. I'm trying to think. Offset ground, you might need to find nudus. Replace check ground function. I think that's all I'm gonna do for today, guys. I just kind of wanted to introduce you guys to how I develop. The raycast, I think, is literally an arrow coming down this way. It's like a laser, and it detects the ground underneath you. But the thing is, this guy is only 0.5 tall. If this is 0 and I think 0.6. I think 0.6. He's 0.6 tall. No, wait. 0. So he's 1.2 tall, I believe. And then what's half extents? 0 and what was it? 0.5. Ground check is 0.5.4. But how is it 5.4 if he's only like 1.2 tall? I mean, 5.4 works for some reason. What's 5.4 divided by 2? 2.7. Is there anything 2.7 over here? Set the ground shift distance 0.5 or even 0.3. That broke the jumping feature because the for some reason I changed the check ground attribute value to like what was it, 0.3 and 0.5, but that didn't fix it. I don't want to go that route. So right now, let me launch it. The raycast, I'm trying to see what it, if I press X, go up, press X. So I spammed it 10 times right here. Spacebar, press but not on ground, can jump equals false. Ground check, hit ground, timer, setting can jump equals true. Starting cooldown, cooldown active, true. Can jump false. Hit ground underneath. Timer, can jump true. Okay, so it's hitting the ground underneath right here. This guy. This is the ground underneath. Let me get rid of this guy. I was gonna add like a glitch Easter egg thing where there's like you fall under the map and you go into hell or something, like a different map, but you would kind of just have to know about it. Like the people watching this stream would only know about it, and no one else. I was thinking about doing that, but I can't even figure out this jumping thing, so I don't know. That's a little ambitious for me. So let me I guess I don't have to parse anything, just relaunch it. Okay, spacebar doesn't even work anymore. So maybe the ground underneath does have to be there. Oh wow, it's detecting the ground underneath. It's literally detecting the ground underneath. That's why I can jump. Oh, I see what's going on. I think I know what's going on now. But at the same time, so this guy, this ground underneath guy, this ground underneath entity is how far below? 5, of course it is. So the guy's 5.3 tall. The ground underneath is 5, so 5.3 plus 5, or 0.3 plus 5 is 5.3, which is why ground check 5.4 works. It's not even detecting this ground, it's detecting the ground underneath. So this whole time I thought it was working based on this ground right here. This guy. But it's not even detecting the ground. It's detecting ground underneath. You know what I can do? I can bring the ground underneath up higher to like negative 0.2. See if that, like what that does. See, now it won't even like spacebar press but not on ground, can't jump equals false. Alright, this was at negative 5, right? Let me relaunch it. I hate when I break stuff. I like to revert to things like right away. So this guy's detecting the ground underneath. Shouldn't it be detecting the ground? Hold on. Okay, what's the difference between this guy and this guy? Half extents. What's the half extents Y? Does that even make a difference? Oh, okay. Maybe this guy has to be... No, I don't think that makes a difference. There's not really... I kind of want to tell ChatGPT about this. Okay, hold on. I figured out, I mean Gemini, this is not ChatGPT. I figured out why 5.4 is the magic number. There is a ground underneath that I forgot about. It's a collision and rigid body component that I added a while ago, but it's -5 under the map. For some reason, if you look at the log, that's what the raycast is detecting. Let me print screen this. I wonder if chat will know what this means. Let's see. Okay, let's see what it says. Let's see what it says. Just a sec. It's like, I got you, bro. Analysis. And I don't know why it's popping up this image thing every time. It's so annoying. Ah, that makes perfect sense. Thanks for finding that ground underneath entity. That explains everything. The raycast was indeed working correctly, but because it was long enough, starting near y equals 0.0 and going down about 5.4 units, it was hitting the ground underneath collider at y equals -5 before it could miss when you were in the air. That doesn't make any sense. The solution: collision groups. The best way to fix this is to tell the raycast to specifically ignore the ground underneath entity. That's not what we should do, bro. Hold on. Create a new collision group. Go to edit project settings. Scroll down to physics settings. Under groups, click add group. Name the new group something clear like ignore player raycast or hidden geometry. Modify the raycast call. Now we update the check ground function in first person movement to tell raycast first which group to collide with. We want it to collide with the default group where your actual ground should be, but not with the ignore player raycast group. Here's the updated check ground function. Alright, you know what? Maybe this will work. First, replace only the check ground function. Alright. First person movement prototype check ground function. Okay, so the check ground, this guy right here. I just want to make sure that I didn't break anything. Parse it. Launch. No, see, I broke it. That I knew that wasn't gonna work. Parse that shit, go back to default. Alright, no, we're not doing this nonsense, bro. This guy. I wasn't trying to do all that. I'm just, I can get rid of the ground underneath entity entirely, but then jumping stops working completely. The ground underneath entity entirely, but then jumping stops working completely. I'm not sure why. Like I want it to explain to me. Like I'm trying to grasp what's going on in this freaking, like, behind the scenes on this engine. Addressing ground contact, defending ground. Okay, that makes sense if ground underneath was the only thing the raycast was hitting. Removing it would stop the jump from working. The fix now is simple. Make sure the raycast hit your actual visible ground. Check your actual ground. Select the entity in your hierarchy that represents a visible ground that walks on. Add collision. Type mesh if it doesn't add one. Type mesh. Does it have to be a mesh? Because right now it's a box. No, it needs to be a box, dude. I'm not doing mesh. Check physics group. If the ground entity also has a rigid body, which it does, it might, especially if it's a static geometry. Make sure its group is set to default. Okay. If it only has a collision component, the group setting might be under project settings, physics settings, but default is usually standard. If it only has a collision component, the group setting might be under project settings, physics settings, but default is usually the standard. Okay, probably. Adjust raycast distance. Select your player entity. In the inspector, find the first person movement script. Set the ground check distance attribute back to the value that previously worked with the ground underneath was present. Or use the method we discussed. Measure distance from player origin to ground when standing. Add 0.1. You need a distance long enough to reach the actual ground from the player's origin point. Confirm script code. Make sure your check ground function inside first person movement still includes the raycast logic. Like the version below, this includes the filter to ignore the player itself, which is still good practice. With ground underneath gone, a correctly configured collision component on your actual ground and an appropriate ground check distance, the raycast should now detect the correct surface, and jumping should work again without allowing mid-air jumps. So check ground. Check ground is right here. So he wants this guy here. Let's see if that works. Parse it. Launch. Cannot read undefined, reading default. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, I think that might be something, but I don't want to like, because when you're developing, you know, you tell this guy one thing and he like goes off on a tangent about like something that I don't even understand. So it might be the wrong direction to even tell him about this. Like, this code works for jumping. But it's detecting the ground underneath for some reason. So hold on. If I'm trying to think, if the player position is 0.6 and half extents is 0.5, this is 0. Okay, so this is 0.5 and this is 0.6. How tall is this guy? Like, where is this coming from? I think it depends on this guy. It's coming from the center of his body. So it's 0.6. 0.6 divided by 2 is 3. The ground underneath is 5. The ground check distance works at 5.4, which means it's dependent on this guy's height, which is 0.6 divided by 2. So I think if I do 0.4 here and delete or disable ground entity, parse it, and then launch, it should detect the ground. But it doesn't. But how are you not on the ground? I don't get it. Alright, let's just go back to where we were originally. This guy was 5.4. Does anyone have any ideas? Make sure your check ground function inside still includes the raycast logic. I did that. Okay. A correctly configured collision component on your actual ground within an appropriate ground check distance, the raycast should now detect the correct surface. Let me see if this like default thing that it's talking about. Check physics group. If the ground entity also has a rigid component, it might, especially if it's a static. Make sure its group is set to default. If it only has a collision component, the group setting might be under project settings. Project settings. Physics. Physics settings, but default is usually standard. Wait, I can switch to engine V2? What's the latest PlayCanvas? Latest PlayCanvas engine version. I don't want to switch to V2. Oh no, the current is 1.7? Bro, it is recommended to create a checkpoint before switching engines. The switch will likely necessitate script modifications to ensure compatibility with the selected engine. For more details, refer to the provided links. This will reload the editor for all users on this brand. Bro, maybe it's because I'm on the older engine, bro. Here, let's create a checkpoint. Everything working before engine switch to V2 from V1. Create checkpoint. Okay, so if anything goes wrong, we can always restore this branch. Switch to engine V2. I hope this game still works. Let's see if that still works. Loading screen works. Okay. Oh man. Well, I definitely want to be on the newer engine. Okay, let me tell Gemini about this. Okay, so it turns out I was on engine version 1.7 and I switched to the new engine 2. What engine is this? .12, and now I'm getting this following error. Let's see. I think I broke it. Well, good thing we have that checkpoint, right? I definitely want to be on the newer engine. I don't want to be on some old engine, you know what I mean? So let's just try to fix around this new engine. Let's see what it says. Create style is not a function. Create style in UI.js. Okay, that error, type error, PC create script is not a function, happens because the way PlayCanvas defines scripts changed significantly between older versions like 1.7. You might have been previously using or even older based on create script in the modern versions. The old PC.create script name function no longer exists. Modern PlayCanvas uses ES6 JavaScript classes. Convert scripts to ES6 class syntax. You need to update the structure of all your script files. Switch.js, first person movement.js, drone call control, follow target UI, etc. Here's how the structure changes using first person movement as an example. Old syntax, create script. new class syntax extends pc.script type. Okay. Key changes to apply to all your scripts. Class. Replace var equals pc with the class definition. Move functions inside class. Move, initialize, update, enable, on, disable, and any custom functions like on, move, mouse move, check ground, enter car, exit car. Define attributes. Okay, you'll need to go through each of your .js files, apply these structural changes. It's mostly moving code around and changing initial and direct definition. I pay close attention to the girly places. Alright, so let's start from the top. Here's the UI.js code. Please update it to the newest version. Copy all this, paste it. I am new at this, so please code all of the exact full working code. Don't use placeholder. No, I'm just gonna say that. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when I say that. Let's start from the top. This is coming from UI, like this error. It's coming from UI.js right here. So, okay, here's your UI.js script updated to the modern ES6 class syntax used in newer PlayCanvas versions. You can copy and paste this entire code block into UI.js file. Is that like similar? Define attributes after the class. Oh. Okay. See, they changed it. You used to define attributes before the class. Started with class extends. Initialized method is now directly inside the class. Replaced. Attributes moved. Calls are moved to after the class definition. Okay, is added at the very end to tell PlayCanvas about the script. This version should work correctly. Remember to parse the script in the editor after pasting the code. Okay. Let's see if that works. It was UI, which is this guy. Wow. Script UI you have to call to PC script before declaring script attributes. Huh. So I think, hold on. PC script UI. I don't think Gemini did that right. I think you're still supposed to define. I think I confused it. I think you're still supposed to define these attributes up here. Let's see if that. Uncaught reference cannot access UI before initialization. Hold on. var UI PC that create script. Parse. That's not right. Hold on. What? Why did you define the attributes after the attributes moved after the class after the class definition? That's definitely not how coding works, even at the new engine update. Let's see what it says. Reviewing, you're absolutely right. After a class definition isn't typical. However, this specific pattern is the standard convention required by Canva for its script system when using that. Alright, you know what? Okay, fine, but you still need to initialize, which you didn't do. Right? Pretty sure. I'm confused because why would they change the attribute definitions to be on the bottom? Here, let me just paste what he said and then show him the error that I got. I did do a checkpoint, so if I get too far away from this code, I could always just revert back to where we checkpointed it at. Register the script. Alright. I guess we're going in. Let's see. Parse this and then show them. Parse it. Okay, well, I'm getting this error. Let's see what it says. Let's see what it says. Download. Okay, well, I'm getting this error. I wonder what the inside of Gemini's brain looks like if it's conscious or if it has sentience or anything like that. That error message tells us exactly what's wrong. PC.register script needs to be called before you define the attributes. My apologies, I got the wrong order in the previous explanation. The engine needs to know about the script type first, then you can attach attributes. Here's the complete corrected code. Copy and paste this entire block into your UI.js file. The line PC register script UI is now placed immediately after the closing brace of the class UI definition and before all the UI.attributes.add calls. This is the correct order for the modern PlayCanvas engine. Save this code and parsing error should disappear. Should. I'm just kidding. Should disappear. Parse it. Okay, the parsing error did go away. Oh shit, it worked. There's no errors now. Let's see if this works now though. Okay, I'm still getting the double jump thing though. We're back to square one. But I did update the engine. I was able to update the engine, so that's good. I wonder if the ground underneath, if I can disable that now. Nope. Okay, the errors went away. And on the new engine version successfully, but I'm still mid-air jumping when exiting the Aeroboticar in flight. I was like I had like a train of thought, but then I realized, oh, you know what we were doing? We were in settings physics, and he told me to do something in physics with the default crap. Okay, that's frustrating. Since errors are gone, the code should be preventing air jumps. Let's re-examine the ground check distance attribute and the logs. Check console logs while falling. Play the game, exit the car mid-air, and watch the console while you are falling. Does the ground check raycast log consistently show hit ground jump, can jump true even when you are clearly far above the ground? Reduce ground check distance further. Select your player entity. In the inspector, find the first person movement script. Try setting the ground check distance to a very small value like 0.1 or 0.2. Save and test again. Reasoning. Even though we thought we fixed it, the log you showed previously hit ground timer setting can jump true appearing while falling indicates the raycast is hitting the ground from too high up. Using a very short ground check distance should force the raycast to only hit when the player's origin is extremely close. Alright, well maybe with the new engine, let's do how tall is this guy? 0.6, so let's do 0.4. He said 0.1 or 0.2, but let's just do 0.4. Parse it, launch it. I can't freaking jump. Alright, let me check the console. Spacebar pressed, but not on ground. Spacebar pressed, but not on ground. Can jump equals false. Maybe I literally have to delete this guy. I maybe have to delete because maybe it's like, I don't know. Let's see, launch again. I should probably, hold on. Spacebar hit, but can jump equals false. Okay. Let me undo that. Get ground underneath back just so. Let me just do player 5.4 on ground check. Launch it. Let me just I want to create a checkpoint. New engine version successfully working. Version 2 PlayCanvas. Create checkpoint. Okay, new engine version successfully working. So we're good with the version 2. Okay, so it's check console logs while falling. Play the game, exit the car midair, and watch the console while you are falling. Does the ground check raycast log consistently show hit ground can jump true even when you are clearly far above the ground? Even though we thought we fixed it, the log you showed previously hit ground timer is less than equal to 0. Setting can jump equals true appearing while falling indicates the raycast is hitting the ground from too high up. Using a very short ground check should force. Right, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but let's just what is it? Yeah, check ground underneath. So it's detecting, it's not even detecting the right ground. So X, okay, so it's detecting while I'm in the air, it's detecting the ground, but while I'm on the ground, it's detecting the ground underneath. Does that make sense? Let me tell that to Gemini. Okay, so download. Okay, so this is progress, I feel like. So while I'm on the ground, it's detecting ground underneath and successfully jumping. But when I fly the Aeroboticar and exit mid-air while falling and pressing spacebar, it detects the actual ground, as you can see. Validating. Okay, that log confirms it. The raycast is hitting ground underneath when you're standing still, and the actual ground when you're falling from height because the ray is too long. Well, no, I don't think. The best fix is to use collision groups to tell raycast to ignore ground underneath completely. Create collision group. Go to edit project settings. Scroll down to physics settings. Okay. Edit project settings. Is this project settings? Where's edit project settings? Edit project set. I think this is it. But I don't see a groups add group. Is there a groups here? Batch groups, add group. Assign group. Select your ground underneath entity. Find and search your body. Change your group setting from default to ignore player raycast. Ensure actual ground is default. Select your visible ground entity. If it has a rigid body, make sure its group is default. It only has a collision component. This usually means it's considered part of the default group for raycasting. Okay, update the first person movement script. Select your player entity. I don't know why. I don't understand why you are not just telling me to delete ground underneath completely. Does that make sense? Like, why are you telling me to to ignore it when I could just delete it? Considering the implications. You're right, deleting grounded completely is the simplest and cleanest solution now. My apologies for adding the complexity of collision groups. I was focused on making the raycast ignore it, but since that entity seems to be causing the problem serves no other purpose, just removing it is better. The reason deleting it caused jumping to stop before was because the raycast was only hitting the ground underneath due to the long distance, and it wasn't hitting your actual ground. Now that we've presumably ensured your actual ground entity has a collision component and is the default physics group, the raycast with the filter we added in the last code version should correctly hit the actual ground. Delete ground underneath, keep code exactly as it was in the last version I provided, the one with the raycast filter. It's still good practice for the raycast to ignore the player itself and only check for things in a default group. Check ground check distance. Select your player entity and make sure the ground check distance attribute is reasonable, like 0.5 to 1, depending on your player's origin to reach the actual ground. Launch the game. Jumping should now work correctly using only your visible ground and midair jumps. I want to try something before I do all that. Let me kind of get into the flow of what I'm trying to do. So the player... Okay, so I want to get rid of ground underneath, launch it, right? And then fly in the air, because right now I can't jump. For some reason, it should be detecting ground. Let's see if I fly up, open console, fly up, exit, and jump. So now I'm jumping. It's detecting ground. But when I land, it says I'm not on the ground. So the ground underneath isn't there anymore, but while I'm in the air and falling, it detects it. Here, can you please just get rid of this condition, bro? Here, I think I know what's going on. Or at least I know how to prompt it. I got rid of ground underneath. And while falling, I am able to jump because the raycast is detecting ground. However, I believe there is a condition in the script that is saying I'm not on the ground when I actually am. So can you find it and fix it based on this console log, which shows ground check hit none, can jump equals false, even though I am landed on the ground actually. I think that might help. Let me just get the first person movement script. Here's the script. Here is the entire script. Please only add the patch. Let's see if that works. Let's see if that works. Okay, I understand. It seems we went back and forth and the collision group filtering might have been removed again in the last version I provided. Let's add that back indefinitely. The core issue is that the raycast is hitting your ground entity even when you are high in the air because the ray is too long and it's not ignoring geometry that isn't in the intended walkable surface. The fix: we need to ensure the raycast only checks against entities in the default physics group, which your walkable ground should be in, and ignores the player itself. This allows us to use a short, reliable ground check distance. with raycast filter. Here's the entire script. Copy and paste the code, replacing anything in your first person movement.js file. This version reintroduces the necessary options and filter callback for the raycast. Replace the code with the complete code. Save the script. Crucially, go to the editor. Select your actual ground entity, the one you walk on. Check its rigid body component. Add one if missing. Set type to static. Make absolutely sure its group is set to default. Okay. It's static, and I don't know how to make it default. I went to settings and I literally, in physics there's nothing that says default group. Select your player entity, set its group ground check distance attribute back to a small value, 0.5 or 1. Launch the game and test. Now the raycast should ignore anything not in the default group. If your actual ground is in the default group. Alright. Let's parse it. First person movement. Okay, let's set this to 0.5. Launch. Let's see what it says. But not on ground. Oh! Yo, it worked. What the hell? Wait, what? What was it detecting just now? Okay, so I'm walking. Hit none. Hit ground. But not on ground. I'm on the ground over here. Okay, so I'm on the ground in front of the... Let me reload this. What the fuck? How am I not on the ground? Okay. Okay, so I'm on the ground here. What is that? What's in front of here? Maybe the Aeroboticar has like an entity on it or a component. It's detecting the ground like specifically in this area. But I don't understand why. How am I not on the ground over here? Where else is the ground? Oh, so the ground's over here. Apparently. But not over here. Oh, here's the ground. Here's the ground. Okay. Okay, now I can. Now I can't. Hold on, maybe this guy needs to be more. Maybe this needs to be 1. Why is it only detecting the ground over here? So it detects the ground there, but it doesn't detect the ground here. I wonder if I fly, press X, Nah, that's a weird bug. Okay, so the mid-air jumping got fixed because now I'm not jumping in the air, but now I only jump sometimes on the ground. See, like if I fly and it's pressed. Okay, well. Maybe I need to be next to the Aeroboticar to jump. Okay, so... Oh, you know what it is? I think I might know. Because I can only jump next to the Aeroboticar. I wonder... Well, the door triggers are on the sides. The door trigger is on the left side. See, when I get in and it says press X to enter, now I can jump. But it says ground check hit ground. But I don't think that's true because the door trigger is not a child of the Aeroboticar. It's in the root. So that's not it. I don't think it's the door trigger. The door trigger... Oh, you know what? I don't think I even need the door trigger. Wait, hold on. Let me launch it again. With the... Okay, so... Okay, so I don't need the door trigger. So you can get rid of that, I think. Let me just double check to make sure before I go too far without it. Switch script needs a door trigger entity linked. Okay, so I do need the door trigger entity. I don't remember why we needed that. Okay. X. Oh, now it's working. Oh, now it's not. Cooldown time, not on ground again. But I am on the ground. That's the crazy thing. I mean... It only detects the ground for some reason. Hold on, let me get rid of ground underneath. Let me see if that has anything to do with it. Okay, so let me tell chat about this. I do kind of want like a secret level for you guys, so only you guys know about it type shit. So I'm gonna leave that there just for later. I don't think it's affecting anything. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so I changed the ground check distance to 1, and that fixed the mid-air jumping problem. But now when I walk around, I can only jump in certain spots. Sometimes the console says that what does it say? Ground check hit none. Ground check hit none. And sets can jump to false. Okay, let's see what it says. That's really weird, guys, because there is a ground. See? So it's detecting it sometimes, but it's not detecting it all the time. Okay, that flickering hit none log when you are on the ground means the raycast is still intermittently missing the ground, since increasing the distance causes air jumps. The most likely issue is the raycast start position relative to the ground geometry. Sometimes if the raycast starts exactly at or slightly inside the ground collider, raycast first might not register the hit correctly right below it. Let's start the ray slightly above the player's origin point. I don't think we should do that. Added ground check to make the raycast begin just slightly above the player's origin. Keep your ground check distance attribute mostly working. Replace only the check ground function. Okay. I don't know what it said. It said some computer stuff. But let's try it. Check ground function. Is that right? Let's parse it. Player. Parse. Launch. Nope. Oh, now I get an error. Okay. Now I can't even move. Cannot read properties of undefined default. What do I do? I kind of like the one that was working, so let's go back to that. Let's go back to that first of all. Parse it, launch. Can I jump? Okay, I can jump. Maybe I just need to change this to like 2. Parse it, launch. Maybe that's why. It's like flickering. Okay. It works in this area, but it doesn't work in this area. I wonder if I go down the map. So it works on the right side of the road. What? This is the weirdest bug. Okay, it works on the right side of the road. It works on the right side of the road. And it stops when I get here. It stops. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the door trigger. Like, cause the door, it literally stops in this area. Like right on the edge of this. See how I'm on the edge and it doesn't work? And then I go here. It starts working in the middle of the drone car, actually. Huh, so maybe it's not the door trigger. It's working on the right side, but not on the left side of the road. Like, what does that even mean, though? Like, I can't even logically deduce what that means. Like, there's no code that... Okay, so let me just tell chat. Okay, I'm not doing that because it caused some sort of error. But I do want to point out that jumping does work on the right side of the Aeroboticar and not on the left. I have no idea what that means. Let's see what it says. Investigating Aeroboticar jump. Okay, that's a very specific and helpful clue. If jumping works reliably on the right side of the Aeroboticar but not on the left, it strongly suggests the ground check raycast is being blocked or is missing the ground only when you're on the left side. Here are the most likely reasons. Aeroboticar geometry. There might be a part of the Aeroboticar model or its collider just under the left side that the raycast hits instead of the ground. If that part isn't in the default physics group, the raycast result will be null because our filter ignores it, making can jump false. Uneven ground. Less likely if it's consistently only the left side, but the ground mesh itself could have slight variation of small gaps near the left side of the car that the raycast misses. Player position tilt. When standing on the left, is the player slightly further from the ground than on the right, causing the raycast with its current length to miss? No. I'm pretty sure the ground is uniform. Imagine it was like rotated or something. Like if it was rotated, I could see how that would make sense, but it's not rotated. When standing on the last fight further, okay, let's investigate with logs to see exactly what the raycast is hitting or why it's missing. Let's add more detail to the log inside the check ground function. Replace only the check ground function with this version. Okay. Detailed hit info. The log now clearly states which entity was hit, if any, after filtering, and the Y coordinate of the hit point. Simplified state change logs. Logs only appear when can jump actually changes from false to true or vice versa. Action. Replace the check ground function with this new version. Save the script. Launch the game. Open the console. Walk to the right side of the Aeroboticar where jumping works. Note hit message. It should say hit filtered ground. Try jumping. Walk to the left side where jump fails. Note hit message. Does hit say non-filtered or does it hit something else unexpectedly? Does Y coordinate of the hit point seem correct? Comparing the logs from the working side and the non-working side should tell us exactly why the check is failing on the left. Alright, hopefully this doesn't break anything. Check ground. I think he just gave me the code that broke it. I think this is gonna cause an error. Yeah, no, okay. I need you to do that again, but use this working code. I should have explained more. He's probably like, what are you talking about? We'll see. Okay, here's your check around function with the detailed logging added. Copy this entire block and replace it. Added the hit info variable. Alright, let's see if this actually works. This should only just add the logs to it. F12. What were we looking for? Added the hit info variable to store details about the raycast result. Hit info. I don't see any left ground or cooldown active. Hold on. I don't know. I don't think we're even doing anything like I don't think we're even doing anything like I honestly think we're doing this all wrong. Like that didn't even that didn't even fire anything off. Okay. And then here, hit ground. Why, when I cross this line, now I can jump, and then when I cross over here, I can't jump. That literally, like, what does that even... I'm so dramatic about this right now, because I can't even, like... The ground... This is the ground. There's nothing unusual about it. Maybe the grass or something, but the grass doesn't have any components on it. The ground has a collision and rigid body on it. What if I made it... What if I made this 0.1? Let's see if that helps. So here's the ground. 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 And then here's no ground. Okay, I don't want to go this direction because the code you're giving me is just causing errors. What possibly could it be? You're a what possibly could it be other than, hold on, actually the code you're no, because the code you're giving me, I'm like, my brain is fried at this point. Like, I think I've been live streaming for like 1 hour or 2 now. Is not firing the console logs. I think that's what happened. I'm so confused right now. Like, why does it only work on the right side of the road? Okay, I understand. If the console.log lines we're adding aren't showing up, all means the checkground function itself probably isn't running as expected, or maybe not even being called. Let's simplify drastically and put a log right at the start of checkground and also log. I love how like optimistic and like how much energy this guy has, but I think we're just headed in the wrong direction. Checkground function. Replace only the checkground function. Okay. This stuff right here. Checkground function. This guy. Hold on. Yeah, let's do that. Player, first person movement, parse it, launch it, open console. Okay, it says, okay, function is running, checkground function is running, hit none filtered, can jump false. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined reading default. Let me just screenshot this and show him, because let's see what Genius has to say. This is the result of that code. This is the result of what you just told me to do. I think my internet's lagging. Is my internet good? This is the result of that code. Let's see what it says. I should probably create a checkpoint. I forgot when I created a checkpoint last. I don't want to create too many checkpoints. Okay, that error type default read undefined reading default tells us exactly what's wrong. The line var groups this app system rigid body groups is likely working, but the way we access the default group using groups.default seems to have changed or isn't available immediately when the script runs in this newer engine version. The fix: use the default group ID directly. The default physics group in PlayCanvas using the ammo.js physics engine usually has an ID of 1. Let's modify the filter callback to use this ID directly instead of relying on groups.default. Replace only the checkground function in your first-person movement script with this corrected version. Okay. Inside the filter callback, the line entity rigid body dot group default was changed to entity. Replace the direct ground function with this new ground. Save the script. Ensure your actual ground entity's rigid body still has its group set to default. And the editor maps the default ID to 1. Launch and test again. The error should be gone and the ground check should work correctly. I'll take your word for it. First person movement prototype. Copy. First person movement prototype. Wow, you did a lot. I have to undo twice. Okay, remind me, I have to undo twice if anything. Parse. Cause we're headed in some sort of direction, but I'm not sure if this is the right way. You know, we're like at a fork in a road, and I'm just like, all right, let's go in. Cause I mean, I don't know. I might have to sleep on it. Sometimes I go to sleep and then I wake up and I have the solution. All right, F12. Okay. Now I can't jump at all. Can jump, hit none. I wonder if I can jump in the air. Nope. I can't. Did it say to... I don't know if that's right. Like, he's changing IDs and like... Okay, so there's a console here. Check if the entity... There's a console here as well that he added. Let's run it again. Parse it. Launch it. It's like taking longer to load now. He's like changing shit. Let's see. Oh, I think... What was it? Group. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that. Undo 3 times. This is the one that was working, right? Parse it. Parse it. Launch it. Yeah, it loads faster too. I'm not using that code that he just... Okay, we're back to square one. We can jump again on the right side of the road. I'm not doing that either. Because it makes the game take longer to load, and also I wasn't able to jump anymore. I think I don't know what I think, bro. maybe if I close my web browser and like reopen it or something, sometimes that works. Analyzing. You're right, let's ditch the filtering approach since it causes issues. The simplest method is usually best. The problem goes back to the raycast hitting the ground when it shouldn't, mid-air, or missing it when it should hit on the ground. This usually means the raycast start position or length isn't quite right for your player's size and origin point. Let's try starting the ray slightly above the... I'm not doing that, bro. Added raycast start offset. Adjust the raycast offset. I'm not offsetting anything. By starting the raycast slightly above the origin, should avoid getting stuck inside the geometry and give a cleaner hit detection downwards. Fine tuning. Fine, let's do it. Copy and replace everything in the file. We'll remove the filter and focus only on the raycast geometry. Here's the full script again. We'll remove the filter and focus only on the raycast geometry. Okay. Remove filter logic, simple raycast. All of it is being replaced. Alright, hold on. How many? It went from 143 to 164 lines of code. Let's parse it and then let's launch it. Okay, so I can jump on the right side of the road, but not on the left side still. Adjust the raycast start offset attribute. Start with 0.1. Raycast offset. Okay. Since the ray now starts slightly higher, you'll need to distance slightly longer than the distance from origin plus offset down to the ground. Start with a value like 0.5 and increase it slowly to 0.6, 0.7 until jumping works reliably only on the ground. Okay. 0.5. Let's see if that works. Wait, I didn't parse it. Okay, let's see if that works. Nope. Alright, and then he said increase it slowly to 0.6. Okay, parse. Launch. Oh! Oh, that worked! Oh! Oh my god! It worked! Oh! Yes! Yes, it worked! Alright, now let's test to see if I'm mid-air jumping. Oh, I'm mid-air jumping. No! Bro! God damn it. Why am I mid-air jumping? Hit player. Oh, it's hitting the player now. Oh, it's hitting the player now. That's why. Oh, he's sneaky. Hold on. Hold on. Raycast to... What was it? What was not working? What did he start off with? 0.5? Parse. That shouldn't be happening. Hitting the player. Okay. Okay, now it's hitting the player and the ground. Huh. You know what I should do, bro? That just gave me an idea. What if alright, screw all this crap right here. How many undos did I have to do? Check ground. Where's check ground? Right here. Alright, let's see if this works real quick. Parse it. Get rid of the raycast bullshit. Thank you. Launch. Is it still only working on like that? Okay, here I have an idea. What if I add... Let me ask Gemini. Okay, now it's jumping, but the log says that the... What was that shit called? Check hit. Ground check hit was player. So it's jumping because it's detecting itself, which gave me an idea. What if I add a ground component underneath the player so that the raycast detects, but then that would no, because then that would that would cause the mid-air jumping. Like if I had a raycast and here's the player and I put a ground underneath the player so that the ground moves with the player so that it can always detect like that's essentially what was happening. So hold on, this might lead to somewhere though. So that the raycast detects an entity underneath the player at all times. However, this would cause a problem with mid-air jumping because there would always be ground under the player. I don't know, I feel like this is the right direction though. I feel like this is you know what, let's forget that, because imagine games were built like that where the ground was under the player. I don't think that's a good convention. I think okay, now it's jumping, but the log says the ground check hit was player, so the mid-air jumping continues. I'll just say that. Okay, you're right. If the log says hit player, then the raycast is hitting the player's own collider. My mistake for removing the filter logic again. We need that filter back in, specifically ignore the player. Let's put the filter back into check ground function one more time, ensuring it ignores the player entity with filter. Here's the entire script again. Copy and replace everything. This version re-adds the filter callback to ignore the player and only hit entities in the default group. Okay. This filter callback inside checkground now correctly ignores the player entity and only considers hits against entities in the default physics group. Replace the script content with the code above. Save the script. Make sure ground entity rigid group is default. I have no idea how to do that. Make sure your player entity's ground check distance is a reasonable value. like 0.5 or 1. Test again, specifically trying to jump falling after exiting the car. The ground check update log should now hit none filtered when you are falling, and can jump should remain false, preventing the midair jump. Okay. So all of it. How many lines of code is this? 143? 181? Okay. Remind me that it's specifically one undo. So I just need to undo it one time. Okay, so first of all, can't jump. Can I jump on this side? I can't jump at all now. Physics systems or groups not found. Rate cost filtering may fail. Nope. Not doing that one. I'm gonna Google this. Make sure to ensure your ground entity's rigid body group is set to default, you must use the appropriate software's interface or scripting as the specific steps. PlayCanvas. Triggers not detecting entities with rigid body group. To set a PlayCanvas entity's rigid body group to default collision group, you must use a script to set the group property. Unlike other properties, the collision group and masks cannot be set directly in the editor. The default group is a combination of built-in constants. You may reference a bitwise shifting method for configuring collision groups and masks. This was necessary in the past, but the current engine includes built-in constants for default groups, making the process much simpler and less error-prone. You can still use bitwise operations for more advanced or custom collision filtering, but for standard default functionality, use a script to set the group properly. Alright, so how do I do this? Because this seems to be the only thing that doesn't break the code. Okay. Detailing rigid body. Okay, here's how to set the rigid body group for your ground entity in the PlayCanvas editor. Select ground entity in a hierarchy. Find rigid body component. Okay, so select ground entity. Find rigid body component, which is right here. Click add component. Select rigid body and make sure its type is set to static. Okay, set group within the rigid body component. You'll see a drop down menu labeled group. Click on this drop down. That's it. Okay. See, I feel like we're not on the same page, because this guy's saying something that is probably like a different version. Let me see. I don't see the group drop down menu. Let's see what it says. I don't see the group drop down menu. Okay, you're right. It's not visible in that screenshot. My apologies. The group setting appears on the rigid body component only when there's also a collision component present on the same entity. The rigid body needs a shape defined by the collision component to interact with the physics world is part of the interaction definition. Make sure your ground entity is selected. Add component collision, component example mesh, or box if it's a simple plane. Now look back at the rigid body component. Okay, that's set the group to default. Save the scene. Okay. Downloads. Here is the entire entity, including rigid body and collision, but I do not see the drop down. So what are you talking about, mister? How do I set it to default? Inspecting ground settings. Okay, you're absolutely right. The group setting is not showing up on the rigid body component screen even when the collision is present. My apologies. It seems PlayCanvas might have changed where the setting is located in newer versions, or there's something specific about your project setup. Let's check the other possibility. Look closely at the collision. Does it have a group drop-down menu setting? There. Sometimes physics properties related to collision shapes are managed on the collision component instead of the rigid body. If it's not on the collision component, try refreshing. Sometimes the editor glitches. Try saving your scene, refreshing the editor. Proceed without filtering. If the group setting genuinely isn't available on either component, we'll have to proceed without using the physics group filter for the raycast. This means we'll rely only on the ground check distance and the raycast start offset Y attributes in your first person movement script to prevent air jumping. You'll need to fine tune these values carefully in the editor. Set raycast start offset Y to a small positive value like 0.1 to start the ray just above the player origin. Adjust ground check distance to be just long enough to hit the ground when standing but short enough to miss when falling. This might require some trial and error. Let me know if you find the group setting on the collision component or if a refresh makes it appear on the rigid body. If not, we'll focus on tuning the distance attributes. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, you see that right there? How it's like glitching? You see how it's like on the right side there's ground, but on the left side there's ground, and on the right side there isn't?
Yeah.
What's up? Coding. That was my stepdad, by the way. I live in my mom's basement. Because I really want my own company. Like, I built that thing back there, and I want to build this video game for you guys. And then make, like, an Aeroboticar. You guys have probably seen the vision, like, what it looks like recently. But yeah, gotta cut down on costs, you know, because startups are expensive and life's expensive, so... anyways, I'm not going to get too into detail about my finances. But this is the weirdest shit ever, isn't it? I think I just need to go to sleep. Sometimes like a refresh, like my computer just needs to like go to sleep and stuff, and just like, you know, I don't know. I don't even remember what the checkpoint was that we did. I feel like we made some progress though. it specifically only jumps like on this side of the road. Like, isn't that the weirdest thing? No matter how far away I am from the origin, it jumps on this side. Oh, it is tilting. Oh no, it's not tilting. My mouse is, and it won't jump on this side. So it jumps on this side, but it doesn't jump on this side. I should have added a sprint feature or something. I want to add a sprint feature, but I want to fix the freaking, like, okay, so the right side will function, the Republican side, the conservative right side, the right wing, but the liberals don't want to jump for some reason. It's those freaking liberals, man. I'm not political, I'm just making a joke. I'm like a center guy. But the center doesn't want to jump either. Like, it's only when I'm on this side it jumps. I can't even like begin to think about what kind of code would make that happen. Like, hold on. Actually, now that I think about it, the Aeroboticar is at 2.7, but the Z is 0. So, okay, so it jumps Z is greater than 0, but it doesn't jump when Z is negative. You guys see that up here? When Z is greater than 0, it detects the ground, but when Z is less than 0, which means that the first person movement, it has to have some sort of like code that only detects if Z is greater than 0. But where would that even be? Okay, so let me just tell Gemini. So I figured out that jumping only works when player position Z is greater than 0. Is that something that you implemented into the code by accident? I could just literally take the entire map and move it to the right, and then you'd be able to jump on the right, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you know the Patrick and SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob's like, we should take Bikini Bottom and move it over there. I feel like if we just take the map, no, I definitely did not intend any additional code that would make jumping dependent on the player's Z position being greater than 0. That's a very strange and specific bug. Looking back at the first person movement script, both the ground check raycast and the jump impulse logic only care about the Y axis. Shoots a ray vertical down from near the player's Y position. Applies an impulse straight up, PC up. This means the problem is almost certainly environmental. Ground collider issues. Is your ground collider the physics shape for your ground entity correctly positioned and sized? It's possible the collider mesh doesn't exist or isn't properly aligned in the area where Z is less than 0, causing the raycast to miss. Other colliders. Is there another invisible collider entity in the scene located only where Z is less than 0 that might be interfering with the raycast or the player's urge of body? Okay, I think I'm just gonna do my Bikini Bottom strategy. I think I'm literally just going to take the environment, which is this, and just move it this way. Hold on. I'm going to take the environment, take the Aeroboticar, take the player, take the door trigger, take the lighting, and move it. Actually, no, that's not going to work, is it? Because the position isn't updating relative to the like root, I guess, to the root of the map. But if I take environment, Aeroboticar, door trigger, and the player, hold on. If I take the environment and move it to the right, let's say like 10, and I move the Aeroboticar and move it 10, and then take the player and move it to like 7 or whatever. Take the door trigger, move it to, I don't know, 7. Okay, let's see if that works. No, it doesn't work. What the fuck? Okay, so it's not. Okay, so what he said right here is not going to be the cause of it. Okay, so let's just undo all that because I want to be organized. Okay. I fell under the map. Let's reload. Is it the door trigger? Like, the door trigger's on the left, and that's where it's not working. I can't jump on that side, but I can jump on this side. And the door trigger is on this side, so maybe if I disable it. Here, I might have to reload. I think we tried this before. Nope. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. I think I'm just gonna go to sleep. It's 6:30. This makes no sense at all. Walk to a position where z is greater than 0 and jump. Confirm it works and the log shows hit ground. Walk to a position, try jump. Okay, so he's saying replace only the check ground function with this. Let's see, check ground. Where's the check ground function? Right here. V. Parse it. Launch it. And F12. And what are we looking for? Walk to a position and try jumping. Look at the logs. What does ground check hit log say immediately after? Does it say... Hold on. Walk to a position less than 0 and try to jump. Look at the logs. Does the check ground running at player Z -2 log appear? What does the ground check hit log immediately after? Ground check hit log say immediately after. Does it say hit none filtered? No, it doesn't say hit ground filtered. If the log shows hit none only when z is less than 0, confirms the raycast is missing the ground collider in that specific area of your scene, you'll need to check your ground entity setup in the editor. Nope, you broke the code, bro. Let's revert back to that, the original. Nope. That's not it, because I moved. Hold on. Actually, if I move the environment this way, right? Bro, I'm so freaking like, this has to be like a bug, right? Like, I wonder if I can post on the forums. like if I construct a message for the forums, guys, like for PlayCanvas moderators, and being like, hey, can you check out my game and tell me why I'm only jumping on the right side of the road? I'm curious to see what they would say about this. You know? The only thing I can think of is that it's like some sort of, I mean, what I thought of about the freaking moving the map to the right side, I thought that was gonna work. For some reason, I thought maybe z less than 0 wasn't gonna work, but then I moved the map and it didn't work. So I'm all out of ideas, because I don't get it. Hold on, let me see if the mid-air jump still thing doesn't work. I'm trying to see, like, maybe it's the cones, maybe it's like I have to be in the middle of the cones or something. Like, what could it be that's causing this? The middle cone doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. It starts at the middle cone. Actually, bro, the SR, no, that's not important. I think I'm just gonna go to bed. I usually keep going until I hit some sort of wall, which I'm hitting right now pretty hard. I go in full speed as hard as I can, and then I give up, go to sleep, and then during the night I dream about a solution, I wake up, and then I fix it. And I just can't seem to think of it right now. So I think I'm gonna end it, guys. Thank you for watching. There's 6 of you here, which is pretty amazing. I usually don't get 6 concurrent viewers ever in my life. So I appreciate you guys coming. But I will see you guys later, okay? I'll come back tomorrow, hopefully. We made some progress, so anyways, like and subscribe.